So I thought I'd do a bit of an update on where we are with the Argon case and the SSD and the Pi 4. So we had to send everything back in the end. The case went back. They sent me a new unit, which actually is a slightly different revision to the old one, which I'll show you in a second. I put everything back together and it's worked great ever since. So it's now installed on the boat and everything's connected back up. I've got my charts again, I've got all my dashboards and things all working, and it's running really quick. I can switch between the applications and just leave everything open in the background. It doesn't seem to slow it down at all, so really good. So here everything is all connected up and installed on the new case, and if you notice in the bottom of the picture here, you can see that it's version 2.2. Now the case that I had was version 1.4, so there's obviously quite a bit that's happened between those two versions. There's a few components that look a little bit different. I've read about several changes on the Wi-Fi board as well, so there's obviously been some development to the case during this time. So in recent videos I've always tried to document how much power the Pi uses. So I did a little video a while back just showing the power consumption of the Pi itself, but in this video I'm also showing the power consumption of my monitor. Now I know that's quite specific to my installation, but it gives a rough idea of how much power you're going to be using at 12 volts to power this equipment. Just note here that my Pi is running several sensors and an SSD. So the power consumption will be slightly higher than what it was and what I've previously seen running the Pi 3. I don't think it's excessive. I think it's worth the additional power consumption to drive the SSD because the performance is so much more improved. So during its boot cycle it gets to about an amp and then it settles around 0.8 with the screen enabled. If I turn the screen off, we see around 0.6 of an amp drawn. So again, I think while it's logging data and it's actually in operation at this stage, that's a fairly decent reading in terms of power consumption. So there was only one final gotcha in getting everything set up, and that was that a couple of the pins that I'd already assigned to one-wire sensors on my board were actually used by the Argon case to operate things like the switch or to control the fan. So if you can see from the picture here, GPIO pin number 7 was one that I was using, and you just have to be mindful that 15 is another one that's potentially in use. It's okay to use the two data pins on 3 and 5 for multiple things because you can add multiple sensors on that bus, but some of the other pins are actually used to control parts of the case. So I found this handy little diagram just showing what pins it actually used because that's not mentioned anywhere else. But in summary, I'm really pleased with the case. Its thermal performance is very good. Flat out, I've managed to get to about 50 degrees, and that's really running everything and trying to bench test it really. So the case is actually in a small box on the boat, so it's not ventilated all that well, although there is a little bit of airflow there. So I'm really pleased with its performance in terms of cooling as well. We'll see what happens during the summer, obviously when the temperature warms up a little bit, but so far so good. And just to end, a little teaser of some of the things that you're going to see coming up on the channel over the next coming weeks. Got some really interesting videos coming and some things that we've managed to get working now. So that's all running again on this system, and the speed is helping all of that. So stay tuned.